think it came right out of Justice Barrett's concurring opinion when she said all that Americans need to take away is that all 9 justices agreed with the decision that the states have no role to play, and state actors like secretaries of states or some of these administrative bodies like boards of election have no role to play in removing a presidential candidate from the ballot or a federal candidate from the ballot. So that, again, I think once and for all, we know that the states now cannot do this. Now, you showed those members of Congress because the court was clear that, of course, Congress could act on this. The federal courts can act on this. And I think that's what the dissents were trying to get at is they weren't dissenting, but those are the 3 liberal concurring opinions were saying, hey, we're not saying this can never happen. We do have the 14th Amendment, Section 3. When they said it's just Congress, that probably what they're thinking is it's probably Congress plus judicial. But at the end of the day, this is a conspiracy to remove Donald Trump from the ballot. We just won this one, and we won it big. They should be embarrassed that they even put these positions forward. These elected officials who did this should lose their elections. I mean, it was embarrassing for these Colorado election officials, for these judges who thought they could somehow ban a presidential candidate from their state courthouse.
Yeah, speaking of being embarrassed, I think one of those is Colorado Secretary of State Jena Griswold. So she spoke to MSNBC about the decision, and at the end of the day, it will be up to voters to, quote, save democracy. Take a listen.
My larger reaction is disappointment. I do believe that states should be able, under our Constitution, to bar oath-breaking insurrectionists. And ultimately, this decision leaves open the door for Congress to act, to pass authorizing legislation. But we know that Congress is a nearly non-functioning body. So ultimately, it will be up to the American voters to save our democracy in November.
She seems upset by that, Jordan. She seems upset that it's up to the voters.
You see the elite and we saw on both sides of this that there were a number of rhino Republicans, former judges, filing on behalf, saying that the 14th Amendment somehow over there, these guys were 80 years old. Now they've come to the conclusion, like Judge Ludig, who came to this conclusion that now the 14th Amendment, Section 3, can be used by the Colorado Secretary of State to take away the right to vote of the people. That elitism that we the people, should not be able to vote for or against a president, that they have to take options off the table. Listen, I'm just very excited that this one's 9-0, that, again, you can kind of shove that right back in the face of any liberal fringe you have and say, listen, there are ways to remove bad presidents, and there are even ways to move potentially bad candidates. And the court said that yesterday. But the way to do that is not going randomly from state to state and creating, as the 3 liberal justices wrote as well in their concurrence, national chaos, which is what this would have done.
Yeah, you think Jena Griswold would take her humble pie and just kind of take her ball and go home after a 9-0. Not like there was a dissenting, it wasn't 7-2, it wasn't 8-1.
No.
It was 9-0. Just a question for you, Jordan, just from a legal perspective. So in the open, we played you that soundbite from Jamie Raskin, congressman, and he says, well, there should be laws in place to make sure insurrectionists like Donald Trump don't run for president. And then Jena Griswold just reiterated that, said, basically calling Donald Trump an insurrectionist. I'm thinking to myself, no charges, no convictions. E. Jean Carroll, just, $83 million defamation. Why isn't it defamation to call somebody, in this case, the former president, an insurrectionist when that's just not true? That might be your opinion, but it's not true.
Yeah. Politicians don't get a lot of protection when it comes to when it's speech and defamation, so that's probably the most likely scenario. And they'll say things like, oh, I'm mixing that up with the other charges he's been charged with, which was obstruction of a congressional act. But you're right, legally speaking, he has not ever been convicted of insurrection. So if Jamie Raskin did put forward his legislation in his dream world, got that passed somehow through a divided House and a very divided Senate, there would still be nowhere to adjudicate it, to hold that President Trump had actually committed insurrection, because he's never been charged with it. Even Jack Smith, who's been very aggressive against President Trump, refused to bring that charge.